So scrolling through Instagram one day, I see a Walther PDP in like the absolute perfect peanut butter color, the whole thing, optic, shroud, everything. But kind of what stood out was the shroud. So that's kind of where all this starts, right? I saw an optic cover, and it's always kind of intrigued me because you've only ever seen the Jaegerworks Bros, and that's kind of been like the standard across the board, but it's only for the SRO, which it's great. It offers protection. It slides right in. You don't need anything extra to mount it other than maybe a little bit longer screws depending on your screw length. But what if there were more options for more firearms and options to take off the shroud without having to take off the optic, re-zero, anything like that, which is kind of where Arise comes into play. So looking at the tags, I see that it's Arise MFG, and I was like, what is this? What is going on here? What do we have? So I messaged Arise because I was curious. I saw a couple options for like the staccatos, Glocks, Canics, Smith & Wesson, Walther, and I was like, okay, but I only saw a limited amount of options, which makes sense. Like, you can't just roll out a bunch of products for everything and expect them to land. So I messaged Arise because I was curious if there was anything for like a 509T, which really doesn't need a shroud, but again, had to ask. And the owner, Jordan, actually messaged me back with his number and said, give him a call if I can, so that we could talk through. He was actually driving to Ohio Range Day, and on that call we spoke for like 30 minutes actually, and he answered anything and everything, kind of went above and beyond of what you'd expect. I spent no money with this man or this company, and he gave his time to me to talk through his product and then what it was. That really sticks, because in an industry where there are a few names up there that have great customer service, like there's a ton of companies that don't, and it's hard to buy expensive products. Nothing in the gun industry is cheap at all, right? So having that above and beyond customer service, it makes it that much better, right? So fast forward about a week later, I placed an order and got it in 2 days. So come to find out, they have 2-day shipping on everything from FedEx, as long as you order within the time frame, right? Box arrives, and it has scan me instructions. It has the actual little guys labeled. So I don't know if it's going to focus, but it says, like, on this one, it says step 3. But it has everything labeled exactly how you'd want it. And then it actually even comes with, every order comes with a paint pen, which it's always something you have to order extra of. I've ordered a few in the past, but the fact that it comes with it, no extra cost, like, huge. I mean, it's nothing that hurts, right? Witness marks definitely don't hurt. So there's also a mini Constitution in there. I actually don't know where I put it. I have a couple of them now since I had a few orders through them. But enough of that. So what about the plate and shroud? So the plate is made out of 70-75 aluminum, and the shroud is 304 stainless steel. So this one is on a Glock 45 with a Vortex Defender XL, and it sits so perfect. Now, it like the front of the Defender is textured, so the idea is that you can rack off of it, you can manipulate with it, but this adds that extra protection. And I actually also have it on my Staccato C2, but this one's with the 507 comp. They don't have the Defender XL version of it yet. So either way, it's perfect. And honestly, with how big those optics are, it doesn't make a huge difference as far as the actual like width or height. It's a game of like minuscule numbers, and I haven't had an issue with even carrying either of these things with holsters. For example, when I've carried the Staccato, it fits. This is a Kerber Arm Soccer 2.0 light bearing, but it fits just fine. I'm a lefty, so I have to modify some holsters a little bit. I haven't had much of an issue in that department. So you will see, especially just to show clear, but this optic I actually bought cracked, which is funny that it's now in a protective shroud because it's cracked. So you'll notice that, but I bought it ultimately because I want to put a Defender XL on this gun, but they don't have that shroud and plate system ready for the Staccato yet. So I have the 507 comp version of that gun. I've been pretty rough on both of these pistols, a bit more than usual, just to test things out over the last few weeks. I didn't film it, but I actually beat the shit out of this onto a Jeep frame. Like, my father-in-law has one in his machine shop, an old Willys frame. So it's exposed, so I just rack the slide off the Jeep frame, but like pretty hard. And I don't know if it'll pick it up, but the actual like Cerakote has stayed on it very well for the amount of abuse that it has taken. Like, it's very minimal as far as the wear goes. And honestly, I'm pretty damn impressed. But I have no zero shift, nothing. Like, everything there's been awesome. It's exactly how I would expect it. The staccato's only been racked off of like wood features, and the optic's very dirty from the last match I was shooting, but only like wood features that were at the last match, just again for testing, and haven't had an issue. Honestly, it did more damage to the wood. Obviously, it's steel versus wood, so not the point here. What I do like about it, I love the fact that the actual shroud mounts to the plate so that you don't have to take off the whole optic just to take the plate or the shroud off if you don't want it on there. So you can run it without the shroud. It's not a requirement in any way, but it's only 4 screws and very easy to put back on. There's nothing hard there. The plate itself fits absolutely snug. I actually had to use like a little bitty, not a hammer, but like I guess it is a hammer, like just a little bitty tool, like a watch hammer, just to kind of get it right into place. Their actual like threshold for cuts is bar none. I've had C&H plates. I've had, MOS plates, but you know, MOS plates. I've had the Vortex plates that come with the optic. Everything sits loose. Everything except for the Arise plate. I could not get the optic to move even with it not screwed in. Like, I didn't shoot with it because, I wasn't going to have my optic go flying or anything potentially, but there's no doubt in my mind on the Glock that would have stayed in place. Now, the optic cut on staccato itself, DPP, is a little different. However, everything sits exactly flush as you would expect. And it wasn't as tight because there's not a back space, right? But it still sat so tight that you could still wiggle the optic, and it wasn't any more wiggling than what you would have on like any other plate system with those plate systems screwed down. So like, obviously you could pull straight up and pull it off, but it would not go side to side. It wouldn't go anything like that. I was super impressed. I would even bet some of these shrouds would go over existing optics. Obviously it's going to look a little funny if they don't have your option, but they have footprints and plates for, RMR, DPP. I'd have to look at see what the other ones were, but a range of guns with mostly all popular optics. So you won't see an issue there. So transfer off of what I did like. What I didn't like, and this is kind of loaded in a way because I had to find something, right? But I would say probably the lack of rear irons. So this optic itself, and you can't, it's hard to get on camera, but it has a notch. You could technically still see the front sight through that if you had to. But also I will say, like, I can present and still line up irons at least decent on this specific gun. Now, Ameriglow does make I think it's a 6XL. So they do actually have sights that will pop up even a little bit higher than the optic. So really it's a non-issue there. On the staccato, they don't have that option. So it's just a straight plate on the back. Now, I do carry this sometimes, but I mainly use this for competition use. And I've had no issues either way. I've actually had no issues with any of the optics I've had installed. Luckily, but again, everything electronic can fail and will fail eventually. A lack of rear irons would suck if I didn't have an optic, right? But they actually have a solution for that. So coming out soon, and they posted it on their Instagram, there's actually going to be a more or less like a plastic piece that you could sit over the front of this optic that'll add irons. It can occlude the sight. It can make it, it can just minimize the actual sight picture, things of that nature. There's really unlimited options because you could technically 3D print anything nowadays. So I think the options with them are going to be unlimited, really. There's going to be plenty of opportunity. Those aren't out yet, for my knowledge, but Again, something I just wanted to mention. But what about holsters, right? So we kind of talked about that a little bit. Standard holsters without retention are going to work just fine. Now, if there's anything with an optic shroud, like an active retention holster, U.S. duty gear, concealed development, and I think there's a few other retention holsters that work out of the box. But Safariland does not. Now, don't do what I did. I decided, you know what? I have a Dremel, and that was such a bad idea. But Ghostman Designs will actually, they have a way to, they've worked with Arise, and there is a way to modify the holster to work. So what I did to mine was I just started cutting. Well, now this guy comes out. I can still use this. I ran it at a different comp. You just have to put 2 hands on it to reholster. But it still works in full. However, it just looks janky once you actually have to, once you draw. But works fine. I actually need to place my order with Concealed Development to get a, I want to try an active retention holster that works with the extra height and width of the Shroud. Again, it's not huge, but most of those holsters are made for specifically the optic, and the optic itself, nothing different from that. Now, these optics and firearms are my own, which is why I haven't done a drop test or anything like that. For one, dropping a staccato is not a good idea, right? Because it'll fire potentially. But I could drop these without rounds in them, anything like that. There's already videos on that, though. So there's a video that Arise did with the SRO where they threw it, backed it off stuff. I will link that in the description just so you can see it. And truly, I do believe in this product. I think it's something that is worth investing in, especially with how expensive optics are. It can't hurt. It's more like a warranty, right? So like Holosun, the whole reason this is still broken and not fixed, Holosun said $250 for a replacement of an open box. They won't fix it. So there's no fixing that optic. How this was dropped and where this was dropped, this Shroud would have saved it. I'm very confident about that. It wasn't a malicious drop. It wasn't anything crazy, and it was accidental, and the Shroud would have taken the damage, and a new Shroud would have been, I think they're under $100. So worth it, right? Ultimately, I don't want to break anything that I rely on, especially when it comes to firearms, because you know that that's just what you'll need. Now, I do have a code to save some money. It's in the description below. With that being said, I make nothing on these sales. So I worked out a deal with Jordan and I where I don't want to make anything off this. I truly believe in this product, and I would rather pass on savings to the shooter, you guys. And like truly saying that, I'm putting my name behind it as well, which isn't anything crazy. However, I hope that goes to show that I would rather you have the product cheaper than me make anything off the sale. I don't want to be, for whatever reason or for what it's worth, being an influencer of any kind, I don't want to be for my own profit in that aspect. So use the code, save some money, and get what I believe is the best plate system on the market. They do also have, I don't have one here, but they have what they call the lowrider. So it actually lowers that footprint, but it does not accept an actual Shroud. So just keep that in mind. But ultimately, thank you for watching. Stay safe. Have a good day. This video will be out before SHOT Show. I will be at SHOT Show in January. I'll probably be at the Gundies as well, whether I'm in the top 5 or not, just to see people, meet people, collaborate. But yeah, so have a good one. Stay safe. Talk soon.